Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. We're finishing our Pac-12 football predictions today with our final team, the California Golden Bears. I'm expecting a major rebuilding season for California this year. Last season they fired head coach Sonny Dykes. Now they've hired a former defensive coordinator at Wisconsin and Justin Wilcox. They returned 8 starters on defense, so the defense will be the strength since Wilcox is a defensive-minded coach. They do return 6 starters on offense to make a grand total of 14, but they lost their starting quarterback in Davis Webb last season to the NFL. So I think it's going to be a major rebuilding season for California. Wilcox has the potential to be a great coach. All head coaches have usually pretty bad first years. They have to get there. They hit their stride in year 3 or 4. So hopefully California won't take it too hard on them if they do not meet high expectations. So schedule does not get easy for a first-year head coach. They're opening up the season at North Carolina, a Power 5 opponent. North Carolina, a team that usually can fly under the radar, as I suspect they will this season. They have an experienced quarterback in Brandon Harris, the transfer from LSU. So with it being on the road and with this team having to deal with a new head coach and everything that's been going on in California, I don't think they're going to be able to get the win. I do. In the end, even if they had a regular head coach, if Sonny Dykes was still there, I would predict this loss for them as well, because I feel like North Carolina is just overall the better team. And with it being on the road, I don't like that. That's going to be an intriguing game to watch, one that I really recommend watching with it being the new head coach. And it's going to be a fun game, California and North Carolina. I love the cross conferences, ACC and Pac-12. So then luckily Wilcox will pick up his first win against Weber State. No problem there. FCS opponent. And then Ole Miss and USC at home. They get 3 straight home games. It's going to help them. Ole Miss, when I did my predictions a while back, that was before Hugh Freeze was fired. I knew they were having some off-field problems. We knew they had the bowl ban, but did not know Hugh Freeze was going to get fired. So that could play a little bit of a factor now. However, I do feel that Ole Miss will still be the better team. I think Shea Patterson is going to be a very good quarterback. He's going to get there. Reminds me a lot of Johnny Manziel's. I'm sure it does a lot of people. The offense is still going to be good, and I think Ole Miss is going to be the better team. It's a long way to travel, so that could be to California's benefit, but I really just don't think they're going to be able to defeat this SEC opponent in Ole Miss, even though they've been through a lot and might not hit that 5-win mark that I predicted earlier before Hugh Freeze got there. But right now, I'm going to project a loss for California. I just really do feel like Ole Miss is going to be the better team. And they did promote from within, Ole Miss did, so that does help them a little bit. USC, the best team from the Pac-12 South, in my opinion. That's just going to be a tough matchup. Luckily, they do get them at home. Hopefully, the home crowd will come out and support California in this matchup. But USC, I think it's going to be too much for this young California team and a first-year head coach. I just don't see them really competing much with USC in this one. Picked a loss there. And then Oregon and Washington, back-to-back games on the road. Geez, you couldn't have asked. Or Wilcox just really got the short end of the stick in this one. I mean, that's brutal. Such a brutal schedule. 3 straight games against probably some of the top 3 teams in the Pac-12, with the exception of UCLA. Oregon and Washington on the road, don't see them winning any of those. Like I said, it's a young team. It's going to be a major rebuilding season. They've really got to develop. And with Oregon and Washington both being on the road and both being very solid teams and dangerous teams, do not see California winning either of those. And they get Washington State at home, team led by Luke Falk, team that I really like their defense. And I think they're going to be able to pass the ball around a lot on this young California defense. Even though they do return 8 starters, Wilcox came in, has to really adjust what he wants to do. And this is just a very brutal schedule for a first-year head coach and for such a young team in the Golden Bears. And I don't see them upsetting Washington State, especially since I see Washington State being very good at this point in the season. So 1 win over an FCS opponent, a little over halfway into the season. That's very unfortunate for California. They're pretty much going to have to win out to get to a bowl game. Get Arizona at home, a team that struggled a little bit last season, went 3-9. Rich Rodriguez hopefully going to turn things around there with those 14 returning starters. This is a game that I actually struggled with. Was I going to give California the win on this one? If you're looking at the schedule, I feel like this could be one of the lone Pac-12 wins against Arizona. This is one of the more reasonable games that they could win. But for right now, I like Arizona experience, and I like that they have their coach has been there for a while. And I think California will lose that game as well. And then at Colorado, team that surprised everybody last year. They have 9 returning starters on offense. I think they're going to kind of beat up that California defense, and because California's offense is definitely going to be the problem. They don't have Jared Goff like they did a couple years ago, and Davis Webb, they don't have him. He was experienced, didn't lead the team to a bowl game last year, but he was still an experienced quarterback. They don't have that. Their offense is going to give them some problems, and with it being on the road, I don't see them upsetting the Buffaloes. And Oregon State, just much like Arizona, at home, a struggling Pac-12 opponent, potentially could win this game. But right now, with Oregon State having consistency at coaching and 15 returning starters, don't see it happening. I think they're going to lose to Oregon State. Finally get their bye week late in the season, which is good. I mean, they're getting beat up. Right now, they have nothing left to play for. They're not going to a bowl game. And then they unfortunately close out with back-to-back road games. Just their luck for the Golden Bears. And against very good teams at that, with Stanford and UCLA. UCLA led by Josh Rosen, one of the better quarterbacks in the Pac-12. I really think they're going to give them some problems. And with it being on the road, I don't like that. And then Stanford, 16 returning starters, Keller Chris, another good quarterback. And with it being on the road and Stanford still having a lot to play for, potentially winning the division and maybe getting into the college football playoff, I don't see California upsetting them in that game either. And it is just going to be horrendous first year for Justin Wilcox and the California Golden Bears as I project them to go 1-11 with their lone win coming to Weber State in only the second week of the season. So it's going to be a long season for the Golden Bears, but I promise you, you just got to fight through it because eventually Wilcox will get this team to where they need to be. Like I said, every new head coach goes through this rebuilding year where they don't win a lot of games. And like I do always, if I could see a game them possibly winning, it would be against Oregon State or Arizona because they're both at home and they're both towards the bottom of the Pac-12. But right now, I'm not calling for either because they've had consistency at head coaching and they have more experience, 14 starters and 15 starters. And right now, I just don't feel too confident in this California team. I think it's going to be a major rebuilding season for them. But we'll just have to wait and see. Maybe Wilcox and the Golden Bears will prove us all wrong. We'll just have to wait and find out. So that finishes up our Pac-12 predictions. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the Gridiron Expert.